4th of July. Susie's got her little 4th of July get up on, and we're headed out to meet some people on the island. And it is like 92 or 94 already, and it's only 10 o'clock in the morning. Woo.
The dog days are here already. Woo!
But uh-oh, all of a sudden the smoke started coming out the exhaust and a weird plasticky burnt smell. The water looked a little dark, and I wasn't getting the RPM I should be getting, so we had to turn around and come back. Ooh, it's been a while since I've been over to the boat, but it's hot. Summertime in Florida, it is hot. Remember that music video I made? The other thing, it's only like 8 o'clock. Too hot. Sweating so bad. Oh yeah, it's hard to be in here, but maybe just the first couple hours of the day. We went out to sail, and the engine seemed to be smoking a little more when I started it up. And we cruised out. The engine started to sort of decrease in RPM. And then more smoke came out, so I let off the throttle a little. And then I would go to put more throttle back in it, and it wouldn't go anymore. It was like half throttle, and the throttle wouldn't advance it, and more smoke was coming out. So this engine has about 30 hours from our trip to Key West. We added to it 30 hours. And a couple things I noticed, like while we were on the trip, is one time this piece of metal came up and started contacting this housing of the alternator, and it seems to be added. I don't think this is stock, someone can tell me, but it usually points down and keeps this pipe away from the belt. And it's, you know, it's just the pipe is pulled up with this zip tie. It can't be right in how it's supposed to be, but that's what someone did, and it's always been okay for us. But now I can see that it contacted this, who knows how long, because it's rubbing a groove into the alternator here. So that could be my only problem, that it's just experiencing a little bit of, you know, it's hard for it to operate because of that. So that's something I'm going to push down and get it back into place and tighten up. But I don't like that situation. And the other thing is the air cleaner. You know, all this debris you see, like soot and whatever, this wasn't there before the trip. And I think these little black things are pieces of belt from this touching, the zip tie, and wearing off. All I can really do is make a couple changes, go for a ride, and see if it fixes it. It stinks when you replace a bunch of stuff at once or fix like 4 things, then you really don't know what was causing the problem. Let's see, that might be easier. Oh yeah, look at that. You know, the way they do these air filters and vents is, this is like the crankcase vent, the valve cover vent, and you know, it just sits there next to the intake of the air filter, so it can just suck it right back in. But of course it doesn't always do that. Some of it gets on the engine or whatever. Okay, there's the air filter. Start to look at things. Oh my god, definitely airflow through that. I can see through it. So, oh, look at that part, it's got like a hole in it. So all it's really going to do by being in here, if you don't rotate it, is the only part of the air cleaner that I would think that would actually work would be right there where air sucks in. Then it goes through there. Is it supposed to be oily? I would assume it is. Air could definitely flow through that, so this can't be my problem, in my opinion. I really don't think this is the problem. I just noticed, and I did get fuel when I was in Key West. I did just notice, let's see if I can get the camera in here nice. So I wanted to check my fuel filter, and well, get the camera here nice. Let's see. I think I see, it must be water in the fuel. See that in the bottom? That layer of whatever that is, this part right here. What is that? And this is the drain at the bottom. I'm going to drain that out. I think I should change my fuel filters. I think I have a fuel filter in here. I think that's what this is. Alright, so I was just looking at this fuel filter I have, and it seems to be the filter for back there. So I can change that. That's the second filter. The first filter has a water separator on it, so I'll get the water out of that and then change that filter. Let's see if I have that filter. Oh boy. Well, at least it's coming like this, so it's not going to get in here. I think I found the other filter. Look at this. This is, I don't know why I bought the whole thing, like this top part too. I don't need that. I can just unscrew it off there, but this is that. So I can't find this oil filter wrench, and I'm gonna have to go home and get that. I only live 10 minutes away. All right, we're back. There it goes. Okay.
In excess of 34 knots, suddenly high waves, frequent lightning, and heavy downpours, along with waterspouts that can quickly form in capsized vessels. Make sure all aboard are wearing life jackets. Coast Guard Service Imperial Florida out.
Now you can see that nice red color down there, whereas before it was just like goo, or I don't know, water, I guess. It says unscrew the filter, and then number 4 says, 3 says to take off the bottom and then oil it and then put it back on, and then number 6 says do not oil the top of it. I did put like a slight oily finger on there because I'm used to doing that. Whoops. Oh wait, what the hell is the difference between 6 and 7? 6 is saying don't oil that. Okay, now I get it. It says don't fill it with fuel, but oil the gasket. That's a fuel thing with the drop coming out of it, not an oil thing. It's on. It's not leaking. I put some paper towel on there to make sure, and I'll turn the 12-volt fuel pump on to make sure, but I got to change that other filter too. All right, and on the other filter, it says to oil the new one, but don't use a lock and key. Number 5. Don't oil the lock and key. What does that mean? This was going right over my head while I was out there that day, but as I'm editing this, I'm thinking that that means that if you don't use oil, the filter will be locked on and you won't be able to get it off, right? That's number 5. That's the last step. So 4 is turn it tight. 5 is... Huh. Alright, well, I'm back the next day because I didn't have any way to catch the fuel out of this filter, so I brought my absorbent pads. Oh yeah. So it's unscrewed right there, but there's no way it'll come off because there's something under it. What the hell, man? It's just the stupidest design. So I have to like take this bracket off, I guess, that holds it to the engine. This is rather inconvenient. Well, it looks like this is going to turn into a third day of trying to get this filter off because I can't get to this 1/2-inch bolt. Oh, it's the next day and I'm back. I have my 1/2-inch wrench. Right, there, see that filter move like that? That's all I needed. There was just a Coast Guard notification that there was a man spotted in the water off some bridge. It's surprising how many boating type of accidents or people in the water. Like we were out the other day and we heard that there was an EPIRB, like emergency broadcast. So like something sunk and sent its notification, or someone pressed their emergency button. They started off by saying like, Jim Smith on a boat, can hear me, please call me, and they said that twice, and the guy never responded, so we didn't know what that meant. And then about like a few minutes later they said they received an emergency beacon notification 50 miles, something like that, off the coast of Clearwater Beach. Well, that's really that's far out. And you know, emergency notification with no communication besides that. I mean, maybe it's too far for the radio to work that far, but that was scary to hear that. All right, we have the fuel filters up back on, 2 replaced, and put the air cleaner back on, start the engine, just run it and make sure I don't see any fuel leaks anywhere. Now these boat air filters, I don't really feel like they're air filters as much as they're just making sure some big chunk of something doesn't go into your engine. I don't know what that would be. Or maybe keeping a little dust out, I don't know, because they're oily. Alright, I got the manual out here, and it says bleeding the fuel system, and then number 3 is, it says when do you need to bleed the fuel system. Number 3 is replacing the fuel filter. Right, so I think there's the fuel bleed on that fuel filter right there, the first fuel filter. I think this is the bleed on the second. Let's see, these are the injectors. So this is my injector pump, and I think the bleed for that is, must be right here. Alright, I bled all 3 locations. Fuel came out right away. And then the new filter that I installed in the back, the filter before the engine, that took a second to fill up and bleed. But everything bled right away. Now let's go turn the key and crank it up and make sure it starts. Alright, I got the fuel bled, the engine started. You know, this is just one step in determining if this was what was wrong, but it sure seems like it would be since there was water in the water separator. And I also remember when we got knocked down, the whole side of the boat that went underwater for a while was where the fuel filler is. So, you know, we could have taken just a little bit on there. We'll see if the fuel separator or the water separator gets any more water in it now when we go for a ride. So hopefully in the next few days we can take this boat out, just go cruising around and check out the engine and make sure everything's okay. If not, we'll proceed to like what it might be next. But I don't want to get too far ahead of myself and try and think a bunch of things are wrong when I found something right away that needed to get done. Well, we went out for a test ride and we only got out the entrance of the marina, and I smell that weird, I don't know, it's almost like a plasticky smell, but it could just be unburnt fuel. It doesn't smell normal. The smoke coming out is heavier. If I give it more than about half throttle, the smoke and the water turn more black. I'm never used to seeing that soot coming out the exhaust. And after it warms up real good, it doesn't really want to go past half throttle. So I need your help. What could this be? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, and stay tuned for next time.